This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
You're listening to Beyond Boss Fights, gaming conversations with interesting people. And now, here's your host, Locowolf.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond Bossfights, episode 23. We got a family affair today on Beyond Bossfights, as I have Locowolf Stormchaser, who most of you know is my son, and he is here to talk about Star Wars with me. This week was the big release of Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and he's seen the movie and I haven't, but both of us are big Star Wars fans, and when Loco came to me and said he wanted to do an entire podcast, kind of expanding his role from the what are the kids playing section, I racked my brain for a few months trying to figure out what kind of topic that we could talk about. It's especially difficult when you know somebody as well as we know each other to come up with a topic of conversation that's going to be interesting and kind of surprise one another. But I'm always impressed by the amount of knowledge and understanding he has gained about Star Wars over the years, and I thought that'd be a pretty good topic because we both have something to say about it, and I have kind of a classic, quote-unquote, older person view of Star Wars. I was 2 years old when the original New Hope movie came out, so I kind of grew up with the original trilogy. Locowolf kind of grew up with the prequels and with like Clone Wars and some of the newer stuff, so we have slightly different views of things, but at the same time, we are both huge fans and enjoy the franchise. So let's carry on. Know what are the kids playing this month, because we're going to go right on into our Star Wars conversation. Okay, today on the line I have Locowolf Stormchaser. Hello, Locowolf.
Hello.
Welcome to the show for the first time. As most of you probably know, Locowolf is my son, and he is currently the record holder for the youngest guest on Beyond Bossfights.
Yeah.
Locowolf, I know that you've been playing video games pretty much your entire life, but could you give us a little 5-minute definitive gaming history of where you started and what you've played throughout your years and what you're playing today?
I started, I think the very first video game I've ever played was probably Midnight Club, and that launched me into all of this driving type game simulators I play. And then the first game I actually beat was Mario Kart Double Dash. So I'm pretty proud about that. Beat it when I was like 5 or 6.
I remember you playing Midnight Club before you even knew how to reverse the car.
Yeah, well, it was fun. And then I kept playing games. I think I took a little break. I don't know when it was or why, but it was probably because my dad had gotten rid of the PS2. So eventually, once I get my iPod, I got Minecraft Pocket Edition, all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. Got introduced to Lord of the Rings Online. I played that for a while. And that's pretty much it.
So what are you playing nowadays?
I have almost beaten Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. That's the game I play the most. I sometimes go back to Driver San Francisco, which I've already beaten twice. And I've gotten interested in Minecraft. So I'm playing Minecraft with my friends sometimes.
You're kind of all over the board, I've noticed. You started out with driving games, you've done some FPS, you've done some MMOs, you've done some building games like Minecraft. What's your favorite type of genre?
I don't know. I mean, they're all pretty fun. MMO is probably later down the list. No offense to anybody who likes MMOs, but I get bored with the storyline sometimes, and some of them get pretty trippy. So I don't play them as much as I play any other games. Driving is one of my most favorite games. So any driving game. Minecraft, building games would be third, and probably single-player first-person shooter games would be second.
So our topic today is all things Star Wars, and do you think we can keep it under an hour?
No.
You and I both have a lot of history with Star Wars. I was wondering, though, what is your absolute earliest Star Wars memory?
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember when I first watched Star Wars, but I remember when we got plastic lightsabers. We just whacked each other all the time. Like, you just couldn't stop whacking.
So at that point of your life, do you remember what the influence was for being able to play with those? Were you watching Clone Wars at the time, or was it the prequels? Because they started to come out, I think they came out just a few years before you were born. So when you were young, they were still kind of big.
I think it was the original ones, but then it just kept going as soon as we watched the prequels. And we've been watching for a long time now.
I remember when you were young, they had Burger King was running a bunch of promotions where you could go in and get like a little Star Wars toy, and it had to do with the prequels, I think, when you got a certain type of meal. And I remember getting those while, going to work and going out to Burger King specifically to get some of those for you guys. So I think that maybe merchandising had something to do with, pulling you guys in. I don't know if that was your first experience having the toys or if your first experience was watching something on TV.
It was probably movies.
I will tell you my earliest Star Wars experience. So I was 2 years old when the first Star Wars movie came out. I didn't see it until I think I was about maybe 3 or 4. My parents took us to a drive-in theater. Do you know what those are?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I don't know. They don't really have very many of them anymore. We went to a drive-in theater, and they were showing a double feature of Star Wars Episode 4, which was just called Star Wars at the time, and Buck Rogers, I think, was the second movie. And the only thing I remember from that experience was the cloaks that the Jawas wore. And then, at the very beginning of the movie when they're on Tatooine, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi coming over to save Luke and 3PO from the Sand People, or the Tusken Raiders. And he had a cloak like that. And as a little kid, I thought it was just a taller one of those Jawas coming to help him. And then when he removed his hood, I was like, I'm so confused. What's going on here? And my parents tell me that I actually slept through most of that movie, so it was probably soon after that scene that I actually fell asleep and didn't get to experience Episode 4 for the first time as a young child. But I do remember going and watching The Empire Strikes Back in the theater. I think it was a re-release. I don't think it was on the first run.
Yeah, because it came out in 85.
No, that's not right. It came out in 80.
80, okay.
So I would have only been 5. So if I remember, I think I was a little bit older. I think it maybe was a couple years after that, maybe like 82.
Okay. Might have been Return of the Jedi. That was 85.
80, yeah, it was like 84 or 85. I definitely remember seeing Return of the Jedi in the theater for the first time. And I will say this about Jedi. I don't understand, and this is kind of a recurring theme with the original movies. I don't understand all of the vitriol against the Ewoks. Because as a little kid, watching Jedi for the first time and watching those little Ewoks fight the big stormtroopers, the big bad Empire, that was awesome. That was a lot of fun. And I had, we had all the Ewok toys and stuff, especially. That was just the right age for that stuff. And so I have actually really fond memories of that movie in its entirety. And so any of you people who don't like the Ewoks, I don't understand you. So when do you think the first time was that you saw a Star Wars movie? Can you recall which one it was at all?
I'm pretty sure you started us off at number 4. I mean, I would be extremely surprised if you didn't. And I'm guessing it was around when I was 4 or 5. Because, I don't know. I think it would be around 4 or 5. I don't have a specific reason, but that feels right.
Do you prefer the original trilogy or the prequels?
Depends on what movie you're talking about. Because I really liked number 3.
Mm-hmm.
except I think they could have done less CGI for the clone troopers.
Yeah, I tend to agree. You know, I didn't have as big of a problem with the prequels as a lot of people did.
Yeah.
And I thought the story was there. There was obviously some really, really bad parts in pretty much all three of those movies. But there was also a lot of good stuff that I think gets overlooked. Particularly, I like the Darth Maul lightsaber battle in the first movie.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And really, I don't even mind the assault that they did on the Naboo ships did on the, what was that, the droid control,
the
thing.
Confederation control ship.
Yeah, I didn't even mind that part. That whole kind of ending to the first episode I thought was pretty good. Episode 2,
yeah, all everything could be scrapped except for the clones. Like, the clone battle was the best part. Like, that's the part I look forward to in the movie.
Yeah.
Every time I see it. It's just the end, right when all the Jedi die and all the clones come out.
The Count Dooku scene was pretty good. It wasn't as good as the Darth Maul scene, I don't think. It was important to get the clones in there because that sets up the Clone Wars thing. But it just, boy, the more I think about that movie, the more I struggle to find the bright spots, because the Hayden Christensen version of Anakin is just
whiny.
in that movie is just not fun to watch at all.
No.
And he's even probably more annoying than the Luke Skywalker of Episode 4.
He is.
And maybe that's what they were going for. Maybe they were kind of tying that together a little bit and showing the immaturity of both of them at the same stage.
They're both immature and whiny and have no idea what exactly is going on.
And I guess since we're going on, I will say that Episode 3 I actually also thought was pretty solid. Anakin's a little over the top at the end.
He's really awesome in the end. Like, he goes like really all dark side, and he's really cool, and he destroys a bunch of crap.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the lightsaber battle between him and Obi-Wan was well done, and up until I think the point where they jumped into the lava. At that point, I thought, I know they're trying to make this big epic moment because that's what you pictured it as when you heard about it in the original movies, but I thought that's where the CGI went overboard. That's where the action went way overboard, and up until again they jump off and Anakin loses his limbs, I think is probably a classic moment too. But
I mean, my favorite part of the whole prequels, like, I've just got to say, has got to be just the space battles and the clones, because the space battles were pretty awesome. Like, nobody can trash the space battles. Yeah,
it's especially in the third movie. You're right. The opening sequence was a lot of fun. Oh, and I remember what I liked about the second movie: Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes, Mace Windu.
Yep, he was pretty good. He's good in about everything.
Until he gets thrown out a window in number 3.
Oh, spoiler alert! Just kidding. So we talked about the prequels. How do you feel about... Now, you probably never saw the absolute original
no,
trilogy.
I never saw, like, the original cut of the original movie.
Yeah, because
But I've seen certain scenes.
I think we only had that on VHS, and it might have even been your grandpa, my dad, who has that version. I'm not sure I ever owned that version. By the time I was purchasing media to watch over and over again at home, it was the special edition. Movies on VHS.
I mean, because who doesn't want to own the special edition?
Well, that was going to be my next question. How do you feel about Lucas constantly tinkering with those original 3 movies? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, they're his movies, so I mean, he can do basically whatever he wants to these movies.
Well, he could at the time, right?
Yeah, like it doesn't matter for him. He can go about and get away with the attitude that it doesn't matter what the fans think because it's my saga. Mm-hmm. It's my thing. So
I can appreciate that he had a certain vision for what he wanted the movies to be, and he wanted to incorporate newer technology to kind of see that vision through. But there are some things in it that are really weird that he did, don't you think? I mean, I still, everybody kind of questions the whole Han shot first thing.
Yeah, like he actually. I think what happened was he actually did in the original cut, and then he edited it so Greedo actually shot.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. You got that.
And that he dodged.
Yeah, you got that 100% correct. I guess my feeling when I saw the special edition scene where Greedo shot next to Han or whatever was I wasn't mad about that as much as I was just confused.
Like, why would he do that? Because it was already perfect enough.
He had absolutely no reason to shoot at him. None at all. And how could he miss? I mean, he's a bounty hunter. This is what he does for a living. He's got a gun pointed 3 feet away from his target. How would he miss?
Yeah, and then that sparks the whole thing that Han is force sensitive. I mean,
okay, yeah. That's a new thing, though. That
it's
wasn't
new, but it's just like, really, it's not true.
That was never something I don't think that anybody was saying at the time that the special edition movies came out.
That's more of a new theory with the new Star Wars.
That's like revisionist history more than anything else. So that was kind of an odd thing. That was an odd choice, I thought. And I've heard Lucas's explanation, how he didn't want Han to be a bad guy. But, you know, if I were Lucas, which I'm not because I'm not rich, but if I were Lucas, I would have explained that away by saying Han Solo's character evolved over time, over the course of that movie. Right, and he started out as an actual scoundrel, right? I mean, this is what his character was, and through his interactions with these other people, and through his catching the vision of the rebellion, he turned into the character that we know today. You know, the scruffy exterior with the heart of gold type of character.
Yeah.
Any other parts? I thought that a lot of the special effects that they did in the final battle of Episode 4 were pretty good.
Yeah,
they actually enhanced.
The trench run and everything.
Yeah, they enhanced the X-wing fighter graphics quite a bit. I mean, they really, if you watch the original cut of that battle, it really looks like a bunch of toys kind of hanging by strings.
Well, that's really what they were. I mean, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure they were all a bunch of toys hanging from strings.
You didn't seem to get the same feeling of perspective as you did with the computer-enhanced graphics with the special edition shots.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. I can understand why he would make changes for like that, but anything else is just like, really?
How about the Jabba the Hutt scene with Han Solo in the first movie?
It's more of a... it's, again, one of those, you didn't really need to do that. He was fine as he was type thing.
Would you have rather seen them put the scene in the movie and kept the original human actor, or would you have rather seen it not included at all?
I can understand why it's in there, so I would have it in there just to be in there, but for plot reasons, it's not really... Well, actually, never mind. It should be in there.
Do you like it the way he did it, or would you have rather seen it without the enhanced Jabba worm?
We don't need the Jabba worm.
Okay.
I mean, I can understand it for the 6th movie, but for this, just not really. You don't really need it.
Certainly, it seems like he grew over time, so he must have been eating a lot of frogs over the next couple movies.
Yeah. I mean, because now he can't move. He just sits on his throne and does nothing.
What else about the special editions? Oh, here's the thing. After the special editions, when the Blu-ray version came out, Lucas went back and tinkered with them again and added some more stuff. And one of the things he added, I don't remember which time, that I thought actually really enhanced the first movie was, do you remember when they were looking for how to shut down the tractor beam in the Death Star, and R2's he's plugged into the Death Star computer, and and there's something. So in the original cut, it flashed through a bunch of like blueprints. It looked like on the computer monitor, but it was like completely dead silent throughout that whole scene.
And then it added the sounds later. Yeah.
So in one of the next cuts, they actually had C-3PO kind of explaining what was going to have to happen in order for them to shut the tractor beam down during that scene. which I thought was actually a good addition to that, because it really filled that silence in, and it actually also made you understand what Obi-Wan was going to go do, right?
Yeah, it made some more sense.
I did not like what he did with the end of Jedi, though.
Oh, with the Hayden Christensen thing?
No, not so much that. That doesn't really bother me that much as the Darth Vader shouting no when he throws the Emperor down the shaft.
Oh, he shouted no?
Yeah, he did.
Mm.
You don't remember that?
I don't know. Like, I don't think I was paying much attention to it and just wanting to see the space battle scenes.
Yeah, that was in the Blu-ray version. I remember that changed for the Blu-ray, and I kind of thought it ruined a moment that was very much an internal struggle within Vader. You know, that point where he had to decide whether to help his son or whether to continue to follow his master.
Yeah.
Ah, boy. Yeah, I really didn't like that change.
I can tell.
Okay, so which movie is your favorite?
I don't know. I've got a lot. I mean,
well,
number 3.
There's only 7 of them to choose from.
Maybe number 3. Maybe.
Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah. I don't know why, but probably because of the CGI stuff. And a lot of people disagree with me on that.
You liked it because it had a lot of special effects?
I liked it because of the certain special effects asserted in the movie.
Okay. Like what?
Like what? Just special effects. I don't know.
Is there a specific scene that stands out to you as, oh yeah, that's...
The first one.
Oh yeah,
the first space battle.
Okay.
Actually, more like when they're landing the hunk of metal that's left from the space battle.
Yeah, from Grievous's ship. Is that what
Yeah.
That was a good scene. I'll give you that. Yeah, Yep. I just said there's 7 movies. The 7th movie just came out. It's not even a week old in the theaters right now. And you have seen it and I haven't. So...
Oh, yeah, so I can't spoil it, can
No,
I?
I'm going to ask, just because it's, in 6 months somebody's going to listen to this and say, well, everybody knows all this stuff anyway. But for right now, I'm going to ask that you give me your non-spoilery thoughts on the latest movie.
It was pretty good.
And yet you don't rank it as your number 1.
Well, when you think of trilogies, it's a little different. Because it's not really in its own trilogy yet.
Okay.
Is my thought on that.
So let me ask you this, because I've seen all of the special commentary from the VHS tapes and stuff, and I know that Lucas envisioned the first trilogy as a 3-act play. The first act he described is where you introduce the characters. The second act is where you put the characters into a dire situation that they can't get out of, and the third act being they get out of that dire situation. So is this following kind of that formula still? Is this Act 1 introducing the new characters to us?
Yes, and yeah. I mean, but there's kind of a cliffhanger.
But it stands on its own?
Yeah. I guess it stands as a first act type situation.
So how do you feel about Disney taking over the Star Wars franchise? I
don't care.
Why is that?
I know they're probably going to do something with it, and they're probably going to make some. It's not even a probably. They're going to make a lot more movies, and they're going to make money off of this. But if anybody likes that, they can take it up with Lucas. It was his decision.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true. I mean, he did decide to sell it, and I think that he probably did it knowing not only that he would make a lot of money on the sale, obviously, but because he wasn't going to be able to do it forever. And sounded like, from what I read, he was kind of ready to say goodbye to Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, because it's kind of funny, because it's like the sale of Minecraft to Microsoft. Like, there's so much that you could do with it, and you sell it. For Minecraft, you could do so many things, and they still sell it to Microsoft, which isn't a bad thing. With Minecraft, like I read, not with Minecraft, with Star Wars. We're gonna stay on topic of Star Wars for now. Star Wars has been the number one best-selling Lego set franchise.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep.
And I think it's also the most popular, and it has the most money income. And I think it just shattered the record with 100 million or so gross money intake, with like $105 million.
Yeah, I think it was like a weekend box office record or something like that.
It was.
So yeah, you hit on a good point too. The Lego thing. Star Wars was pretty good at merchandising anyway, and now they're part of Disney. Do you see any difference in the way that so obviously there was a lot of hype built up for this movie. First, it was kind of a slow drip. They'd leak a photograph here and there from the set. They do an interview every once in a while, and then it seemed like as we got closer to the release date, the last maybe 3 or 4 months, they just opened a fire hydrant. And
yeah, it like theories and so many things were formed off this. It's like not even funny. There were so many theories.
Yeah, no, you kept up with those better than I did, but
I did.
Do you think that that's a good thing, or does that raise the level of expectation too high?
I can clearly say that it raises up the level of expectation. I don't know if it would go too high, but I know it's raised a lot.
So one of the thoughts I had when I kept seeing all of this stuff, especially the week leading up to release, was really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I don't say bad meaning that it was bad. I just mean that there was a lot of it. And my thought was, is there any possible way that this movie can live up to the expectations that are being built up? And from all accounts, it sounds like it did, which is good, because if it didn't, every little bit that it didn't live up to expectations would have been magnified because of how high the hype had been.
Yeah, and it did pretty much live up to expectations. It's a very good movie, very good. I mean, it has its moments that it's like, oh, why'd they put this in here? But
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, like, and that's a spoiler. There is something like that happened that made it that type of moment.
That's not really a spoiler, but I guess the one criticism that I've read about the movie, the only one that I've read, is that there are perhaps too many callbacks to the previous trilogies.
There are. There is a couple callbacks. If you remember that Han got the Millennium Falcon in a Sabacc game, won it from Lando, well, it was stolen from him 3 times.
Okay.
Stolen. Like, it was stolen from him by this guy, which then it was stolen from that guy, and then it was stolen from the guy who stole it from that guy who stole it from Han, and it just goes on.
Okay.
And then that's how it ends up on Jakku.
Well, okay. We better not go too far down that path either. But
yeah.
So I know I talked to Broadkill after he saw the movie with you, and he was all about the callbacks. He thought that it was the perfect amount. He liked the fact that he understood all of the references calling back to the previous movies. But you felt that maybe there were just a few too many?
I don't know. It really depends on the callback. I'd say, like, it calls back with the big super weapon that can destroy planets,
Mm-hmm.
And there's a trench run for the huge super weapon that can destroy planets, and there's the training droid, and it's getting stolen, and it's a desert planet with there's Jawas too. There's Jawas in there.
Well, there's got to be Jawas.
Yeah, but there's Jawas in there.
So back to the Disney question, I guess. We know that Disney has done a really fantastic job with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we've also heard that they're going to attempt to follow the same type of pattern for the Star Wars movies. Do you think this is something that can be sustained, this whole building of a universe on top of multiple films?
A universe that's already been created. I do not know. I mean, fans are going to not be they're not going to be very happy if it strays too far from the expanded universe that has already been written about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if they have some things to that in there, then I think they should be pretty good. Like with the side movies, if they're doing it the Marvel way, if they're doing side movies, then they can't make it too irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be about somebody, and it's got to be interesting. Because some of the, I know how Marvel does it, and I mean it's okay the way they do it. I don't dislike it, but I don't think there's as many characters to do it for Star Wars as there is Marvel, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, there's not yet.
Yeah, I mean, they've introduced a couple new characters, and then they kept some of the same ones. So, I mean, if they make a story based entirely off Luke, I mean, I can understand that. But if they base one off of Poe Dameron, which is the best pilot in the Resistance, he's the ace. He's the guy, I guess. He's the Luke Skywalker of... I think that might not be as interesting as one with Luke Skywalker or like Leia. And Leia could... Some of these characters, I guess I'm trying to say, don't have enough material to have their own movie.
Do you think that Disney will be able to flesh that out, though? I mean, the beauty of rebooting the expanded universe is they don't have to adhere to the stuff that people know about these characters already. They can start from scratch and do anything they want with them.
Yeah, but then the fans aren't going to be happy. And I mean, you don't want to get fans unhappy because they're not going to go and see the movie if they're unhappy. So they're going to get less money if the fans are unhappy. So I believe they probably would stick to some of the stuff.
You've hit on kind of an interesting thing because I've had conversations with other people about this regarding Marvel. And sorry to stray from Star Wars a little bit, but it's related. I really enjoy the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I never read the comic books. So I'm going in basically with a clean slate without any kind of preconceived notions at all about what should be in the films, right?
Yeah.
I think that for Star Wars, they have a little bit of stuff that they have to adhere to. It's the other 6 movies, right?
Yeah.
But since they've wiped the slate clean of the expanded universe, they don't have to adhere to that stuff anymore. And I think there's actually a fairly small... I'm going to say that it's a fairly small population when you compare it to the amount of people going out to see Episode 7. A very small amount of people that actually care about what was in the expanded universe. I think it's a pretty small percentage. If they were to get upset, it wouldn't hurt the bottom line all that much. Now, granted, they are the hardcores, so you would love to have them on board, but you could do it without them.
Yeah, you could. Actually, there are a lot of people who like the Jason and Jaina expanded universe type thing, which, if you don't know what that is, that's basically Han and Leia's son and daughter. I mean, actually, it kind of follows it. And this is going to be... Yeah, okay.
You're going too far.
It kind of follows it.
You're going too far.
So
I'm going to cut you right off.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good lead-in, though, because my next question actually is going to be, I know you've read several of the Star Wars books. Of course, you couldn't have read all of them because they're just way too many.
No, there's so many.
But how did you feel when you heard that they were uncanonizing the expanded universe?
I've never heard, so...
Oh, okay. You didn't hear that? So basically that was when they came out and said, when people started asking about Episode 7 and how are you going to handle all of this material that you've got to fit your lore around, they said, you know what, we're not going to consider any of the books canon anymore. That means they're not part of the official lore like they were before. So we don't have to follow the books. We don't have to react to what was in the books. We're just going to come up with our own storyline, right?
That makes sense. Knowing people, like the people who wrote the books and made millions off of like the book that they wrote that was canon, and people bought it because it was canon. But now, since it's not canon, not many people are going to like buy it as like not as many diehard Star Wars fans because it's not canon anymore.
I'm not sure they made millions off of it.
Well, not millions, but like however much money they made off these books.
So you feel more sorry for the authors of the books than for
Yeah.
See, I was wondering how the diehard people were going to feel about that, considering that they had invested so much time in enjoying, this part of the universe where it was fleshed out in text as opposed to on screen. All of a sudden, just having it kind of dropped out of the official lore. What that feeling? I wasn't one of those people, so it didn't really bother me. But I was wondering if there were others out there that were a little more upset about that.
There are, I can be sure that there are fans out there that were like, "No, why'd you do this?" And they were all like really mad at Disney. But I mean, hey, it's not my problem.
Well, everybody gets outraged about something, right?
Yeah, you can't go anywhere without like messing with somebody or like making someone mad anymore.
That's true. I've noticed that too.
Like, you post something that's totally harmless on Facebook and people like kill you over it. I'm not saying that's happened to me because it hasn't, but like something like a selfie and people go and grind you like you're a terrible person and all that stuff.
Someday we'll have to talk to you about that because that's an interesting world that you're growing up in that I didn't have to worry about.
Yeah, I mean...
Now let's shift over back to gaming a little bit. What Star Wars video games have you played?
My most favorite so far is Star Wars Empire at War.
Oh, really?
Yes, that has been my most favorite. Like, single-player kind of campaign. Well, besides Battlefront. But you can't beat Battlefront.
Okay, so Battlefront really is number one. So
Battlefront's number one.
Battlefront, the first-person shooter, and Empire at War is a completely different type of game, right?
Yeah, it's like fleet commanding game.
Yeah, it's like an RTS. It's more like an RTS, real-time strategy, I think is what they call it.
Yeah,
almost
that
like
makes
a Rome Total War, right?
Yeah,
only you're commanding a Starfleet,
starships.
And so this is your second favorite, but this is the one that you've played most recently, right?
Yeah, I played it like 2 days ago.
What other games have you played?
Recently, the most recent Star Wars game besides that would have to be the Old Republic.
SWTOR.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of probably Star Wars was one of the things that really got me into video games in the first place. I've told the story before of how I used to play Star Wars the arcade game on my dad's Atari 2600. And it was the first game that I ever actually, quote-unquote, beat, back when beating a game meant flipping the score all the way back to zeros. So I played that on the Atari. I had Empire Strikes Back on the Atari 2600, which was AT-ATs, basically. TIE Fighter, I played, I think it was X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, maybe?
Maybe.
On one of my first IBM PCs, which is now just called a PC. Let's see. I never really got to... I did have Battlefront, but I didn't play it very much.
Okay, you can't just not play Battlefront.
Well, I had it on PC. It was like Windows XP, and it just... I don't think the first one was as good as the second one either. So.
No, it wasn't. I mean, as far as I've heard, this new Battlefront, quote-unquote new, it's like more like the old game than the new game. That's okay. That made no sense. It's more like the first game.
No, I understood what you meant. You mean from a gameplay perspective or amount of content, or
for you can fly over like the battle, like in starships. With Battlefront 2, you have separate battles, land and space. The new Battlefront, you've got starfighters that you can fly over the like the land battle.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not in space; you're just in a starfighter over the land.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
Which it's okay.
You know what games I really liked, and I don't hear people talk about these much. Maybe nobody else liked them as much as I did, but I had two games from the Starfighter series on my PlayStation 2.
Oh yeah. I saw that.
I really enjoyed those, and those came out about the same time as the prequels did, so late 90s, early 2000s.
Actually, I think the first Starfighter game, the Starfighter game was based off of 1, right?
I believe so, yes.
Because you got the Naboo Starfighter.
Yeah, and there were actually some tie-ins to the movies, which was fun because I can remember getting Starfighter 2 before Attack of the Clones came out. And there was actually little hints as to what the plot was going to be if you played through the story.
Okay.
So that was fun. I enjoyed that. I mean, the characters were all completely different. There wasn't any characters from the movies in there, but you did eventually kind of hook up with some of the space battles and things that were in the movies, so that was interesting.
Yeah, I think I could see why that'd be fun. And was Jedi Starfighter?
Jedi Starfighter, yep.
That was number 2?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, because it never said specifically number 2 on the thing. So.
Yeah, and you were in one of those little starfighters that had the droid on the side. And
yeah, the Eta 2, I think.
And you could actually use. Don't ask me. You're the one who knows all the numbers.
I'm looking it up.
You could actually use Force lightning on other starships outside of yours, which was kind of fun because you could zap them with Force lightning since you were a Jedi, and blow them up that way.
Oh no, that's not right. That's the one in episode 3 is the Eta 2. If I do Jedi Starfighter, it automatic. Yeah, there we go. The Delta 7. That's what it is.
Okay, you got me on that one.
I got you. How?
I mean, you know a lot more about that stuff than I do. I don't remember any of the numbers from the new movies.
Oh, I just looked it up.
Okay.
On Google. Those are pretty fun starfighters, but I mean, everybody's all-time favorite starfighter is the X-Wing. Not to deviate from what we were talking about, but the X-Wing is legit.
That's okay. We can. You know what else we can do before we move on to the next topic here is kind of deviate off a little bit and talk about the toys, because the toys have been such a big part of Star Wars ever since its inception. And,
yeah. The toys are all over the place.
Right, exactly. I mean, I don't know that... I think people credit Star Wars with being the first huge, marketing success from a cross-promotion standpoint with outside things and toys and stuff. So I had a lot of Star Wars toys when I was a kid. They were really big. In fact, I sold most of them for about $0.25 a piece, and they would have been worth a lot more if I was to sell them now.
Stupid.
Well,
I would have played with them too.
I was like your age. I was a little bit younger than you, and I was getting ready to move to another state, and I was trying to do my part in scaling down, so got rid of stuff I didn't play with anymore. But I did have the X-Wing, and I had a TIE Fighter. I never had the big Millennium Falcon, but I had...
Oh, man, that would have been so fun. A legit action figure scale Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, they had a really big one.
It would have been awesome.
I had a couple friends who had it, but I do remember the X-Wing, if you push down on R2-D2's head in the back, that's what triggered the wings to go apart into attack formation.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and if there was another button on the back, I think that you pressed, and that made a laser noise. But the lasers didn't light up from the actual laser cannons.
From the wingtips.
It lit up in the front, which I guess I thought that's where it shot from.
No.
When I was a kid.
Well, that's where the proton torpedoes were shot from. Not the actual shots.
And then the TIE Fighter, they had buttons on each side that if you press the buttons, the wings would pop off.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I saw.
Yep, so I guess because TIE Fighters always, got blown up and exploded in the movies, yep. That's what you got to play with. And of course, you could never find the one wing. There was always one that was missing somewhere. So you had a TIE Fighter with one wing flying around.
I don't understand how you can lose something with a wing that big. You can't really lose that.
Well, I don't know. You lose your shoes all the time around the house.
I do not. The dog steals them.
Let's see. So what toys did you have that you can remember?
Currently or just...
Any of them that you can remember.
At one point I had that Millennium Falcon. It was really weird. They re-released one, like the new updated version a little bit ago, and I think my brother has it. But there was an older one that I played with. I have an X-wing. I have the X-wing from number 5. It came with the moss. That's pretty much it.
Oh, you mean like moss coating the wings and stuff like?
Yeah, coating the wings.
Dagobah?
Yeah. And that was, I've got that.
That Millennium Falcon that you had was actually for younger kids.
Yeah.
That was like a little chunky action figure, ages 5 and under Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
That X-Wing is like legit action figure size.
Right.
I have a bunch of action figures. Like a crap ton of action figures, which I am very proud of. Broadkill has the Eta 2 class interceptor for action figures. We have a lot of toys, like a lot of these type of toys.
You have a lot of Lego Star Wars stuff too.
Oh yeah, don't get me started. There's so much we could talk about with Lego Star Wars. Let me think. So we've got for my birthday last year, I received the newest Star Wars Lego AT-AT. Christmas 2 years ago, it was the Star Destroyer, the newest Star Destroyer. And 3 years ago, my brother received the newest X-Wing model with the weird wings that with all the Technic pieces and all the weird wings, and I broke it, and I could never put it back together because the wings just were messed up. They were poorly designed.
Yeah, I remember
and that I didn't really like that. For Star Wars, like in tribute to Star Wars, I build my own starfighters, Star Wars style starfighters.
Mm-hmm.
So with the pieces from that X-Wing that I never put back together, I built a new and improved X-Wing, half the size, twice as much firepower. Like legit, it does. And it is quite literally half the size of the X-Wing, the original one.
Now, speaking of action figures, do you remember trading my vintage Boba Fett to one of your friends?
Oh, Boba Fett?
Yes.
We had a Boba Fett?
Yes.
No, I don't.
You did.
When was that? Was that 4th grade?
I don't remember when it was.
Because if it was 4th or 5th grade, I know who I traded it to. But I never even knew we had a Boba Fett. I never would have traded it if we had a Boba Fett.
Yeah.
If I realized it was...
It's not like he was in mint condition or anything, because...
Yeah, true.
Actually, my little brother, when he was really little, chewed on one of his hands, and it made it all, like, elongated and weird and chewed up. So instead of keeping it that way, I decided I was going to just cut it off with scissors and make his arm look like a rocket launcher.
Huh.
So he was a one-handed Boba Fett. But... yeah, you came home one day and said, yeah, well, I traded that toy for, I don't know what it was, probably some Matchbox car.
No, it wasn't a Matchbox car. I think I traded it. I know I traded some Star Wars action figures, 1 or 2, for, it was for some other Star Wars action figures.
Okay, well, you owe me $900.
It wouldn't cost that much. Especially with its rocket launcher arm.
Okay, last question. If you were a Star Wars character, which one would you be?
Vader.
Why is that?
He's most obviously the most powerful Sith. He had good in him, and therefore, if you were Vader, you could turn to the light side whenever you fear and whenever you felt like it, and overthrow the Emperor, and basically become good again. And instead of becoming a terror to the galaxy, you could be some hero. And yeah, you could become some really awesome person, like this really awesome Jedi guy.
Okay, but if you're Vader, you gotta be Attack of the Clones Anakin too.
You don't have to be.
What do you mean? Yes, you do.
Vader was created before that Hayden Christensen. So
Vader was created before Hayden Christensen. That is accurate. That is absolutely true.
Technically, you could become Vader without having to become annoying Anakin.
My answer is probably Luke Skywalker, just because he was the one I always played on the playground when I was in kindergarten. And nowadays, it probably would still be Luke Skywalker, even though everybody says they want to be Han Solo. I'm probably more like Luke than I would be like Han.
I think I would be Vader. I would be like Vader. Just throwing that out there.
All right, as most of you know, this is a point of the podcast where I typically will plug a fellow member of the Gaming and Entertainment Podcast Network. And, well, this month I'm supposed to do Burton and Scrooge, but they still haven't gotten around to creating a bumper for me to play at this point. So, as I threatened Roger, I'm going to go ahead and do a Burton and Scrooge bumper with a British accent. UK listeners, I'm so sorry. Hello. If you enjoy the finer things in life, like plotting world domination and petting naked chihuahuas, the Burton and Scrooge podcast is just the thing for you. Tune in on a weekly basis to hear about gaming, films, food preparation, and mobile app recommendations. After all that, if you don't like it, you can just sod off. Burton and Scrooge is available on SoundCloud and is a member of the finest collection of podcasts available on the internet at the Gaming and Entertainment Network. Okay, for feedback this month, actually probably the last couple of months, I did get a little bit of feedback on iTunes. I got 2 5-star reviews, so thanks for that, USA iTunes people. First one is entitled Pod People by DPrescott01. I don't know what Pod People means, but I got some good feedback from DPrescott01. Thanks for a great show. I tune in every morning on my commute from Worcester to Boston. Just heard you say you only have 10 reviews in iTunes and you deserve better, so I added one for you. Great show. Keep them coming. Thank you, DPrescott01. I will continue to keep them coming as long as I have something to say. That's my little disclaimer there. My second review comes from... this is a Tolkien name. Must be someone from Lotro. Threndanir. Threndanir from the USA says, insightful is the topic title. Meaningful topics. Have especially enjoyed recent podcasts pertaining to gamers getting older, evolving game tastes, etc. A lot of Brax's insights come from his years in Lotro. Oh yes, this is a Lotro. After playing and leaving the game after 6 years, I find his views similar to my own. Yes, so thank you. Still love Lotro. It's just not quite as fun as it used to be. So, sounds like I'm not the only one. If you have feedback, you can send it to braxwolf@gmail.com and I'll read it on the show. Remember that Beyond Boss Fights is on iTunes and would appreciate your continued ratings and reviews. Beyond Boss Fights is also on Stitcher and Player FM, so add it to your playlists. For contact information, Locowolf, how can people get a hold of you if they want to?
I've got I've got an email.
Yeah, that ancient technology.
Yeah, whatever.
What's your email?
locostormchaser@gmail.com.
Okay. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate having a little bit of family time on the podcast.
Welcome.
As for me, you can follow me on Twitter at Braxwolf. That's BRAXWOLF. You can email me at braxwolf@gmail.com. And you can follow me on Nook, Facebook, YouTube, or you can check out my blog at braxwolf.com. Thanks. We'll see you next time. If you had feedback, you can send it to... Let me say that again. That sounded terrible. If you have feedback,
You aren't doing a thing.